All right. Aloha, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. We're going to get started. I'm Katie Hansen. I'm with the Public Finance Initiative, and we are delighted to be here with you tonight. We learned so much and have been enthusiastic about this project ever since we came in June and are happy to be following up. My colleague Alex Grunn is also here from Public Finance Initiative. And we've got a really great agenda for tonight. So I'll walk us through that and then turn it over to Gina for a welcome and our grounding. So we have kind of 5 components laid out for the evening. After a quick introduction and some updates from Gina on water updates, we'll move into this process to identify projects to meet community needs. And so that'll be where everybody here can collectively think around different topics of which types of projects would be important investments in the water system and the watershed. And then we'll present a little bit about how to think about project prioritization and funding concepts and principles, and then do an exercise to prioritize the projects. So after identifying a long list of potential projects that could be invested in, which of those lists will emerge as priorities? And all of this work feeds into Gina and the East Maui Water Authority's efforts to develop a strategy for the water system that's really rooted in community values and reflects community voices. And we'll close with next step, and then we're running a similar process tomorrow. So that's our overview for the evening. And again, just want to really thank you for your time and being here. I'm going to give you a 2-minute introduction to the Public Finance Initiative. Who are these folks from the mainland that are here tonight? Alex and I are part of a small and mighty team that has the pleasure of doing this work. And what we do as a nonprofit organization is we work with governments and organizations to want to embed values in public finance decision making. So we're so thrilled to work with county departments like the East Maui Water Authority to say, how are you raising money? How are you spending money? And does that align with the values of the community? What can we do to help think about those strategies to bring decisions into alignment? And since 2021, we've worked with over 476 governments in states across the country. And we're here tonight through a program called the Rural and Small Cities Program, which acknowledges that governments that serve small and rural populations like East Maui will often face barriers in funding infrastructure investments, operations, and other needs. And this program is aiming to shift those patterns of disinvestment by providing technical assistance to help to learn how to integrate philanthropic investments and capacity building. So this workshop is part of that effort to help unlock and expand resources to invest in place-based solutions. We provide this program free. It's pro bono through the support of our funder, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. But what we're saying here tonight are the views of our own, not the foundation. And when Gina applied for this program, we were just really delighted to read this desired goal of her participation in the program. So I'm going to read this out loud and then hand it over to Gina for updates. So when Gina applied to be part of the Rural and Small Cities program, she said her outcome is developing a successful East Maui water resource management program that addresses historic systemic inequality and has community benefit components that provide economic and social benefits to communities that were completely dewatered under previous practices, and promotes sustainable water resource management to ensure the future availability of water for future generations. And we read that and thought, boy, howdy, are we excited to be a part of it and just humbly be here to support you in your aims. So with that, I'll hand it over to Gina. And again, mahalo, thanks so much for having us here. Thanks. Oh, and I'm sorry, I'm going to pass over this lapel.
Oh, I'm going to be quick because I'm Gina Young, and I think most of you know me. I'm the director of the East Maui Water Authority. Before we go any further, I'd like to ask Jerome to come up and do an opening pule for us, if you.
Yeah.
All right, on mahalo. I guess pule kako.
Mahalo ke akua. Thank you for this beautiful day and every single day that you give us here on this Aina, Lord. We ask that you be with us tonight. Check. As we discuss our water use and our water issues from the Ko'olau to Central Maui. We just ask for your guidance, your love, and your protection um, every day, all day. In your mighty name we pray. Amen. Mahalo.
Thank you for that. Great way to start a meeting. Okay. Before we get started, I just wanted to give a shout out to my great staff and all the effort that they put into getting the department just up and running and also getting ready for these meetings. So we have Leslie Tamarabuchi, who's our grant coordinator, and she was here a couple weeks ago talking about our grant program, which is still open. And then we have Serena Fukushima, who's right there. Thank you. And then Mary Eliza Beaumont, they're both our information specialists, so they're good at community engagement and helping us with that. I also want to thank our board members that put so much time and dedication into what we're doing and provide us with knowledge and input and guidance. And we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing in the way that we're doing it without them. So I want to say thank you to Moses Bergau for coming tonight. And then also Bush Martin too. And then I just want to thank PFI and welcome them back. It's so nice to have you. We have Katie Hansen right here. And then we have Alex in the back.
Gosh, thank you. I'm getting my steps. Indeed. Thank you so much.
Sure, Jonathan Scheuer will be at the meetings tomorrow. He was at Seaworm today, and I want to say he did a great job of defending East Maui rights as well as representing DHHL. So I just wanted to give the thank you to PFI for all the work that they've done to help us get prepared. Um, they're just an amazing nonprofit organization that's set up to help communities like this that have had past injustices to develop programs where there are community benefits going back into the community. So to have someone reach out and so willingly and so able help us, it's been really impactful. Um, and you met them in June when they came out for the first round of meetings. So I just wanted to real quickly explain what we're doing back here today. We're not doing a repeat, we're doing a deeper dive a further in. But I first just wanted to um, talk a little bit about some of the input that we got at our last set of meetings. And there were themes that went across all of them. And those themes were around having community control, having a cultural perspective and lens as you manage your resources, the need to improve the infrastructure and increase equity and fairness and access for everyone, passing knowledge down through the generations. We heard that across all the meetings that we had. Focusing on the environmental and ecosystem health. I think that's something that really needs to be boosted. And then a calls for good governance and transparency and being accountable. In Kihei, in Keʻanae today, we did hear about this urgent need to really bring equity back into the management of water resources and fairness and equity. And again, having a literacy program that goes down to keiki as well as water management and access for everybody. And then in Kula, there was that same feeling of lack of water and how that's really shaped the community and concerns about infrastructure, water quality as well, and then just a real distrust of government and outside people coming in and a lack of inaction and a desire for better policy making. And then in Haiku, we heard some of the similar things about the grief over the loss of cultural practice and climate change and what's happening. And I know you're experiencing it here, especially now with what's been happening this past month. And then just again, that real mistrust and distrust and feeling let down by government policies and just wanting us to really do better. So what we're here tonight is it's a process, you know. So we had a real broad lens when we first came in June, and now we're kind of focusing that lens down to a little more specific of what type. We got your vision. What type of projects can we get your input on that we can then develop into programs? One thing we've learned, if you're going to go out for funding, you got to be specific about what you're doing. So that's what we're doing tonight is we're not only getting what projects that you guys like, but what are your priorities? Everybody knows, you know, money doesn't grow on trees or so you need to know what priorities are. And then we're going to learn a little bit about what kind of funding mechanisms are there out there that we can use. And we're willing to get creative and tap other sources, maybe go places government doesn't normally do. But, you know, we heard the urgent call from everybody to make change now, and that's one of the ways that we're gonna make change. And then we'll continue to come back to you as we work our way through all of this. And then I just wanted to, in addition to doing all of that, I also want to let everybody know that on November 14th, the Board of Land and Natural Resources is having a very important meeting. Not only are they going to discuss the next year's revocable permit for the water through here, they're also, the DLNR is recommending, as they did last year, that they hold a contested case over the long-term water disposition. And what that does is it kicks it into a quasi-judicial process where people can no longer talk and converse and come up with solutions together. We're really unclear as to how this process would work. You normally don't ever see government suggesting it in the beginning, and we're really concerned. So we added tonight as a fourth category to talk about is ownership and management of the system, because we want to take your voices to that meeting, and we want to encourage you to also go on that meeting and either write some testimony or actually show up on the, I think they use Zoom or some kind of online platform, and let them know what you think about that and that you think your community really, you know, does want to be heard and doesn't want to get put in a process that has constraints that prevent that. So um, that's my call to you. And then I'm going to turn it back over and we're going to start our
Right?
deep dive.
Yeah. Thank you, Gina.
Mm.
Click. Okay, so as I explained it about how we thought tonight would unfold, we'll start with this session to draw from the wisdom in the room where we can collectively identify projects that are important. Yeah, Gina?
In my rush to get here, I forgot
Okay.
to introduce. We're going to have an introductory speaker first. I wanted to
Oh, of
introduce
course.
Uncle Eddie Wendt and just say thank you. Have you come up and maybe give us some inspiration to start the meeting? Are you? And then Mahealani too. So yeah, we can bring the microphone to you. You've given us such inspiration over the years, and we wouldn't be here where we are without, and we can't get where we need without you.
Thank you. The water authority is important. And we all have experienced this drought that we've been going through. And Maui County, the people did vote for the water authority, and we support the water authority. It is a very important times of our lives that we got to figure out something that people can receive water, but at the same time, we must protect our fragile environment. And how we do it is a good question. And I think with the water authority and people involved sharing our mana'o together, we can accomplish a lot. And today I watched the water authority, Commissioner of Water Resources. It was very good. And I learned too. There's some things that I didn't like that I didn't realize. But I want to say that Jonathan Starr did a very good job. Funko, who was Sierra Club, he did a very good job. And Ashley, who represent Namoku, who did a very good job. And also the county of Maui, the water department, he did a good job. He spoke very clearly on what's going on in Kula. I appreciate that, straight up. And these are the kind of things that we need to do. And of course, all of you who is here, we're playing a very valuable role right now. You know, it's not about just one person, it's about all of us. And for the residents of Keʻanae and Wailuanui, we must protect our home. Period. And Naiko. This is our home, but we also realize that water gotta go out. But how much water goes out is the question. And we need to learn through alternative resources. One that stands out a lot in my mind is the sewage treatment plant in Kahului. The county of Maui, and I think Maipono should give money to the sewage treatment plant to process their water and use that for irrigation. And the surface water that goes out to the public. But we need to learn to use that water. We cannot shoot 60 billion gallons of water or more underground and waste. There was a period of time that Namoku worked with the University of Arizona and the Hopi Nation. Arizona uses all recycled water. They don't waste. If they can do it, we can do it too. But other than that, Gina, thank you very much for taking the lead, and hold more. Let's see what we can do. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you for that. Much appreciated. I'll turn it back over to you. I won't interrupt you.
No, you're welcome. Gina, this is for you and your team. Yeah. All right. So in setting up tonight with Gina and the team, we thought about categorizing the types of projects that we might think through into 4 different topics and using that to move from these general vision pieces down into the specifics of what types of projects do we want to invest in. And so we have 4 topics that we'll go through, and our recommendation is, because we're a group that we can have a collective conversation, we'll just move through these with as much time as we need. We do have the evening where we'll start with water system improvements for efficiency and longevity, and I'll pull up a slide with a little bit more of a definition and some examples to get us going. And Stacy has graciously offered to help us run that topic and also take notes throughout the evening, so that in addition to the audio and video, we'll have lots of your input. And then the second topic is the Baseyard Development and Support. And that conversation, Gina will lead with some help from Bush. Thank you. The third topic is on Watershed Programs, which Sharina will help with some help from Ed and Milani. And then the fourth topic is on stewardship and water system ownership and operations, which Shay will help us with some assistance from Junior. And I think it's important to know that after we list, we're going to kind of like empty our pockets. Let's just in expansive brainstorming list projects that come up under these categories. If there's other projects that don't fit under the categories, right, we can surface those too. And then in the second part of the evening, we'll do some prioritization work after a bit of a presentation. So right now it's brainstorming. Let's think about projects along these lines. How does that sound? Okay, all right. So for this first topic, and then I'll hand over the mic to you, Stacy, we're thinking about water system improvements for efficiency and longevity. And so we sort of define this topic as upgrading the physical infrastructure for water collection and delivery systems to reduce water loss, improve reliability, and extend its lifespan. And these examples, just to get us going, may include something like reservoir lining, ditch repairs, expanded water storage, stream monitoring gauges, or rainfall data monitoring. So I'll leave this slide up and hand it over to you, Stacy, if you want to add any more. And then, just to help with the recording, the wisdom in the room, we'll ask when possible to please speak into a mic. So Mary Eliza and Alex will help run a mic to you if you raise your hand. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Stacy Alapai. I just wanted to start off by asking if anybody has any questions about this topic. I feel like we have a very knowledgeable room here, but if anyone has questions um about it, I would like to start there. But if not, then I would love to just start brainstorming from this room of what kind of water improvements people think that we need. Don't be shy. Okay. Yeah, Uncle Moki.
That's called the upgrading the physical infrastructure. There needs to be
There need to be clarity made of what's the infrastructure and the districts that we're talking about, because different areas has different, because there's delivery systems. Have more clarity on how to proceed.
On how to what? Sorry, I missed.
On how to proceed.
the boundaries of the system.
Yes, the boundaries of each collection system, like the
Cashier systems.
reservoirs. Because I'm pretty sure it's all kind of scattered around, and a few individuals know where it is, but as collective costs, I think that can used to be a little more clear on where it is and what it does.
And available to the community, because I assume
Yes.
BLI has those.
Yeah.
So something like maps or whatever would provide clarity of the boundaries, not just of like the systems limitations, but also the ahupua'as, or we talking map?
Well, it's very clear where the ditch system ends. There's probably maps, and it could be more clear for others to understand what we're talking about. And then beyond that ditch system, it branches off into catchment and recycle.
So how all of the different infrastructure systems with
Yes.
different owners interact with each other.
Yes.
Okay, great. That's a great idea. In the back over there, if you could pass the mic down to Kuipo.
Stacy, can I interrupt for a second? I apologize. I want to hear your comment, but we want to make a quick introduction first. Sorry about that. Yeah.
I realize sometimes you do need paper. You can't read your phone while you're holding your mic. So I wanted to introduce a consultant that we brought out who has been helping me. This is Xavier Iris, and he is an engineer that has lots of experience in other places with how they manage their water system. So I just want to thank you for coming out. And he's also here to answer questions. So if people have questions about what they're doing in other places in California, he's open to answering questions. He'll also be tomorrow during the day, giving a little more information about that. So hit him with some good questions.
Okay, so I'm just thinking about the water system, not just from Mauka to Makai and all of the main ditches, but even further down to the point where it gets into the ʻauwai, into the kalo, down to the ocean. So, looking at the ʻauwai system itself, I know we need help with that, even like along the towel patches. But what I'm actually looking at is looking at the actual land claim awards to determine exactly what areas, the name of the areas, the name of the kahawai, and the actual old ʻauwai, some that's still in place and some that is covered and can be reopened. But actually looking at that and doing a deep look at that meets and bounds.
So looking at like the green infrastructure, I think is the is the word that we use, and the ʻauwai systems. And I'm just trying to repeat back what I heard for the note taker. Looking at land titles and old ʻauwai systems
The
that
meets and bounds, and as well as the land claim awards, or really looking at that.
the land claim awards, and also what's currently in function and what's not, but once was
Was and can be
and
restored.
can be
back.
restored. So restoring old ʻauwai systems. and mapping existing active ʻauwai systems. Thank you guys for all being here. This is really helpful to be able to talk and not just think about it by myself. um, so, looking at the ecosystem as a whole and thinking about how the water can make it all the way to the ocean to not just restore the individual kalo patches, but also all the species living in the stream, the way that the fresh water normally interacts with the ocean environment and the reefs and the cleanliness of the nearshore environment for sustenance from the ocean as well. And so, if the priority in taking was making sure that the flow was still just at a bare minimum, just flowing from pool to pool, looking at what is the depth of each stream needed for that just continuous flow, even if it's not strong, but to make it all the way down. And then the capture point should be just above that level. So if it's like, pouring rain and flowing and there's lots of water going, like a lot is captured in that moment of time because it's above that minimum height of water to make it to the ocean. And then being able to really capture that water well and mitigate loss. Water can evaporate an inch per week, and a lot of our reservoir fields are in the middle of the hottest, windiest part of the island with really high evaporation rates. So if those reservoirs were deeper, less wide, deeper, and then also covered, that would be really helpful. And I've just noticed a lot of the ditch systems, it's like it's capturing everything down to the bottom, and then it's only during an overflow that the stream makes it down, which leads to stagnation. And then the species all die, and then the kalo goes bad. And so, where is it that the land itself can just have its own right for the water to flow, and that human collection is like the extra on top of all of that, just treating it really well. Okay, just gonna repeat back a little bit while we wait for whoever's gonna get the mic next. So I heard a few things there. Prioritizing freshwater flow to the ocean and having a minimum, setting minimums for that, as well as I heard deeper reservoirs with covers. Very specific and very good idea. Just- and recycling the water. And I think a lot of what you actually said was about prioritizing public trust purposes and putting the natural needs at the top of that. So I've heard that discussed in legal
Prioritizing covers
for reservoirs and deeper reservoirs to prevent evaporation or mitigate evaporation. Any other thoughts on water system improvements for efficiency and longevity? I was expecting to hear more about linings and leakages. Does anyone have thoughts about those concerns when it comes to water system improvements? So repair the infrastructure. So another point would be, Mary Eliza, another point would be repair aging infrastructure. How do people feel about monitoring of streams or rainfall? Do you think we have enough of that? Do you think we need more of it? The monitoring. Would you say like stream monitoring or rainfall monitoring?
Periodically, we have to do some monitoring because every day is different. Yeah, some days rain and some days don't. So I think if we can get gauges in the streams and rivers, that will play a big role in monitoring. Because today, technology with gauges in the ditches and streams, we can put them on a computer, and you can stay home and take a look at it and get it more educated.
So having like 24/7 gauges that we can then look
That'd be good
back
too.
on, or
That'd
is
be
there a
good.
minimum of a time period that you'd want to
Well,
be?
I think that we can figure that out as we go along. How important it is to monitor on that stage. But I think we should really think seriously, because with the change of climate, things are changing rapidly. Today might have water, but tomorrow may not. And what I notice out here, it can rain for days. But 1 week, no rain, but everything dropped. 2 weeks, even more so. So again, monitoring is important. I feel monitoring is important. Gauges are important. Today's 2025. Technology is much greater.
Yes, we have the technology.
And, maybe include education with monitoring students coming out, work with University of Hawaii or somebody. So these kids feel young adults can anybody who go and get educated at the same time,
So
not
maybe
just
like an
us.
internship program to monitor the gauges and set model.
Buy all of those stuff, even to the ocean mouth. And, there was Skippy Howell, who was the aquatics for the state of Hawaii. He retired now. He was very good. And I think there are some people already doing them now, continuing his practice and collaborate with them because they have the knowledge. Aquatics
Okay, great.
state.
Educating students in regard to monitoring. Perfect. And then Auntie Mahealani had one to add, and then I think we're going to move on to the next one.
Our community to get funding that lasted several continuous years, that provided temporary, I guess, 3 years, 2 or 3 year capacity for monitoring our own streams with our own people. That program included training and equipment and MTVs and everything that we needed in order to do this. And I think it's really important. It should be a priority that we have stable and ongoing permanent capacity to monitor our own streams. And as to exactly how that is done, I was talking to some staff persons earlier. Ed and I watched the COER meeting today, and I got kind of flummoxed and confused by all of the hydrology legal jargon. And I think, though, that we're smart enough to understand that stuff. It's not beyond us. It's just that, he was really deep into it, and I hadn't been around it for a while. So talking about H95 and Q50 and all of that kind of stuff. We, as part of our monitoring program, should have built larger community capacity to understand just exactly what the hydrologist is doing and what the standards should be given the unique and special, how would you say, geographic, physical attributes of each stream, because each is unique and different. So you cannot apply one standard across the board for every stream in the watershed. I'm here. Anyway, as I was watching the quorum meeting today, I was thinking, man, I think that our community members would really be able to catch on to this stuff really easily. Would be able to follow this hydrologist talking story real easy if we had like maybe a 1-day workshop. That's not a long-term project. That's but it's sort of related to this building our own capacity for community monitoring of our own streams. I'd like to sit through a workshop where they tell us, like Xavier understands over there, what is the standard that you apply to a stream? Where should it be? Where should the gauges be cited? How often should you do it? What do you do with respect to a system like ours where you have a diversion system traversing the entire moko?
all of those things. I would really love to have not a permanent thing, but just a short-term workshop so our community can really be immersed in it. And so they're grounded in facts and not, talk story, kind of loose talk. Oh, they're taking too much water. All of that. We need.
So like a
Anyway, one
hydraulic
workshop and our own water monitors permanently from a stable. I would love it if government would just fund as part of their, positions like 3 or 4 monitors in our community. We're worth it. We're a watershed over here. However it's done.
So like
Thank
a
you.
hydrology, an in-house or culturally informed hydrologist, like a local hydrologist. Yeah, I watched some of that too. So like almost like a staff hydrologist or hydrology training for community members to be more actively involved in those kinds of reports. Paid. Yes. Okay. Write that down. Paid hydrologist on staff.
Right.
And gauges as well.
All right. Yeah. Please.
Just from a logical point of view, I feel like the amount taken should be based off of how much it's raining. So if there's rain gauges, that should be tied into, like the weather pattern should be tied into the take limits. So instead of just being like, this is the take limit every day, this is what we take every day, that it follows the weather. And that monitoring is also not just physical scientific data, that it's cultural, emotional, human data as well. And so, yeah, people who live in those places, who know those places, should be the ones also not just saying like, this is the level, but this is how it feels. These are the species present. This is like the sound. This is the smell. And because the health of the watershed should be dictating the amount that's distributed elsewhere.
Since we are on this thing, also on the monitoring, I believe that what we need to have them do is when they do the studies on the opu, ʻauwai, and ʻauwai, they need to do it at the diversions because the diversions are sucking them up. A lot of it is going in the diversions. So if we can have the studies at that location and Makai, both, you can see a big difference because every time when I was younger and I was still I see all the opu, the ʻauwai all stay inside the ditch, heading that way, going the wrong way. It's supposed to be coming down. So
yeah,
studies done at the diversions.
Diversion.
Thank you.
Suck up all things. Or like studies done above and below. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Stacy, for leading that through. Thanks for kicking us off. Yep.
Yeah, my name is Kimo Day.
No. I want to talk about the upgrading physical infrastructure, the delivery system. We got one major delivery system in Wailua that is out of the production right now because the main line is plugged. And this has been many years. I used to farm kalo, then it affected me where I just had to, no water, no kalo. And not only me, but there's some other people that's affected because the line is plugged and that has to be taken care of. But the bottom line is the money.
Yeah. Great. Thanks for sharing.
I have my opinion.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. We'll do a roundup at the end here, but for now, I might suggest as a prompt, we move on to the Baseyard Development and Support. And so this is creating a local Baseyard facilities and equipment and some examples. I'll turn it over to Gina and Bush if you want to say a few things to get us started here.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. That was really great input. I love the variety of perspective. One of the things that the department is tasked with is doing watershed work. And in order to do that, we need equipment. So, and that's one of the programs we can develop to go out and get funding for. So, to give some examples of the kind of input we're looking for is one question is where? Do you want a base yard in your community? Do you want to co-partner with us? And then also, what type of equipment might we need to get into the watershed? If you could just, if you know what type of equipment is needed up there, let us know. What type of other needs might be met through a base? Are there things that we could attach to it, perhaps? I don't want to give you any ideas, but there might be other things that could go along with it. And then one of the things that we've thought about, and it may not happen right away, but would there be a need for an equipment loan program that could go to individuals that are perhaps trying to do work on their own property? Maybe a stream goes behind them, maybe they have an ʻauwai. Base yard? Are there other types of programs? Do we need a nursery? I mean, these are the kind of input that I'm looking for. So sure. I've gotten the county council gave us 2 field workers, a field supervisor and 1 worker, but I think we would need a lot more workers that can actually go up into the watershed, operate the equipment to do the stream clearing. To first of all, you got to create some access sometimes. And then just to do other types of, I don't know that we would be doing invasive species removal or working in partnership with other groups, but really looking at field workers. That's I'm interested to see how you might envision it. I don't wanna just give you my ideas, but
Workers assist chemo and the people on that side to fix their pipe.
that's a great idea, yeah. And so not just a loan program, but like a personnel program where we work together. Yeah, yeah, that's another okay, great. What other ideas you guys got? What about location? Is it something that you would want in your community here? Is it or oh, wonderful. So I'm hearing that's a yes, a definitely. Namoku would love to partner. Yeah, we'd hate to have it in Wailuku and try to have to bring equipment out here. Um,
It's gonna be like we're creating our own East Maui irrigation, but gonna be in here, the water authority, right? And equipment gonna be excavators, truck, grass cutters. You gotta maintain the road and the ditches. Drones would be good too, where we not can walk. At least you can send the drones to look for us.
Cameras, right? Yeah.
Cameras, drones, UTVs, labors, uh, uh, pretty much everything that you're gonna need in the mountains. Whatever that we get, chainsaws and yeah. Definitely the vehicles. Well, yeah, monitors. Always need monitors for I'll monitor the water, the native stream life, the fauna, everything. You gonna monitor everything, the whole ecosystem in the kalo. Um,
You guys had mentioned like the equipment loan program. Would that be to Ohanas or would it be to, you know what I mean? I'm just asking like if
radio communication. We're in the early stages of just brainstorming. When we talked about it at one of our meetings, it was to local families that have their own private land. I mean, I'm sure there'd be insurance considerations we'd have to deal with, but it seemed like there's a real need when we talk to people that live adjacent to streams, they're trying to do their own work, but they're not going to go out and buy a $70,000 excavator. So, was that something that you like? I mean, is that? Oh. And would it be useful to have a drop off and pick up at the same time? Yeah, that was a yes that I heard. Okay, great.
I just think that's an awesome idea. It makes me think of Uncle Moki, who couldn't be here this evening because it's his daughter's birthday, but he has a lot of the equipment and the somehow never-ending spirit and manpower to help everyone in our neighborhood. There was a base yard here that's because it's in the middle of the Ko'olau range, and then there's like the tools and people who can help. Then it's like, hey, like it's like a call-in system. Like, we need this tool, and can someone come up and help us fix this that day? And then that crew takes those tools and goes and brings it, and then can bring it back. Or like that way, it's not like 30 excavators. There's a couple, and then they get the insurance or the repair, but also manpower to support. And that way, it's a central like library of skill set and resource that everybody could pull from. So yeah, it's a great idea.
I didn't know get off. I think you were at the meeting where it came up. I heard earlier too that not just laborers, but we need people maybe with biology expertise and understanding the environment too. That they can go in and really observe and understand what's going on. Did I catch all that correctly? Is that scientists and aquatic experts?
Is it possible to add that to for future and expanding this family sphere? Well, yes, definitely we need assistance of the science are not simply Austria.
That's useful. The idea came by the meeting that was in Haiku. We had a lot of Puelo folks there that were talking about some of the storms that had done a lot of damage to the streets and how backyards to use their own Puleana to take care of it, and how difficult it was to get people to help them and kids aren't as industrious as they used to be. So that was devastating. Any other knowledge you want to impart with us before? That was really helpful. I love how you think out of the box and different, and so much more broad than how you think. It's really useful. Any other ideas before we move on to watershed programs? Yeah. Okay, great.
All right, I'm going to hand it over to Serena here, but as an introduction to our third of 4 topics, the watershed program's idea is to protect and restore the forests, streams, and ecosystems that supply our water, partner with existing organizations that are doing this important work, and supporting East Maui's workforce development by creating more employment opportunities in the watershed. And some examples may include invasive species removal and stream debris cleaning, but as Gina said, we appreciate you all thinking expansively, so these are just some notes to get going. Serena, happy to have you add anything. Thanks so much.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is a topic near and dear to my heart with the background in conservation and watersheds. So, and this is also a part of essentially our mandate in the Charter Amendment. So it's the fire renewable control of our water infrastructures. It could also protecting, restoring, and putting back into our watersheds and Aida. So not just managing our water, but growing our water for future generations and looking at our forests and looking at our source. Yeah. And so interested in your level and how we can do that.
Native plants.
Restoring
native plants. Eradicate invasive species and put back native plants. Because all the native plants on Mauka is wiped out because of all invasive species. You cannot clean the whole jungle, but you can each them little at a time, but put there, always put there. Like I said, a thing and the piggy banks. You cannot just take water out of the piggy bank and expect to get water. Eventually, all you will get is the piggy bank. And that's what they got right now.
because the invasive species is taking over. So as we are fleeing Manamada along the ditch system, there is the place we start sticking on for them back.
Could I ask some of the main invasive species threats that you folks have been coming across in these areas that I described?
Integrating a nursery area to start seeding the invasive species. The natives. Yeah, like that's the good African total Salvador.
So Myconia, and those are pretty widespread, right? So,
Grasses.
grasses. So a lot of plants. You're seeing a lot of invasive plants.
With that strawberry guava. So one plants that is medicinal for can be used like the ʻauwai for oatmeal. Then all these native plants that can be used for medicine and even for harvesting.
So truly native plants for ecosystem health, but those that are also cultural medicinal purposes. So not a sense of creating a preserve that nobody's going to touch and see again. That's something that folks can go and harvest now.
In fact, the ʻauwai bananas, there is a lot of different species of ʻauwai banana.
So maybe partnering with Kahanu Gardens to get stock for ʻauwai bananas.
If I could add, to build on the theme of popping out the native species, things like low flow channels can be helpful. So that even if the water is low, some of the species can make their way across a dry patch. And maybe even generally think about restoring stream morphology, so that if it's become over engineered over the years, you could kind of restore its more natural shape. And that can be better, provide refuge for species.
Shucks, we work with, we get a chance for working with BYU. They come in and they do dragonfly studies. So they found, what is that? What is that when you find only in that area? Endemic. There you go. But get endemic dragonflies up in our mountains. And I think that's really important to document. And the guys, the college or BYU that come in, they help us. And then I hope so, but I hope for one program, that because they, like I said, they focus on the dragonflies. Dragonflies need the water, and so on. There was just a lot of program that I figured out there.
So maybe that's kind of a tantalizing puzzle for the researchers to come in that, like, we're not just, seeing these species that we know of, but we're actually discovering new endemic species in this area the more that it's getting studied. So let's welcome the researchers over and maybe they'll find something new.
Here is the Hawaiian dragonfly, is found down here. And that's proof here also. Always try to think of our science, incorporate. And when you can do that, you have a better voice. Not just yes, but that Hawaiian said there's something over there. No, you put the scientists in. They have the degree, the pala, and that's what we need.
I have a question about the native species restoration and just your mamaho, and maybe I'm stepping into hot water in this, but understanding, your thoughts on replanting and reforesting, but how can we keep that a long-term investment for those plants to grow up without the invasive species encroaching? And we're talking about those, the plants, right? But we also see animals and other species that could go in and, destroy those native plants. So I'm just curious on your thoughts on trying to do that ecological restoration, but keeping all invasive species out. And maybe that's not even possible, but just your mana'o on that.
Remember, it's anything, you gotta have full maintenance. It's always gonna have to have maintenance, and that's why I think bringing in education, schools, kids at the same time you teach them, and at the same time they malama aina and help malama the aina and then grow with it, get attached to it. We need to grow and be part of Mother Earth to protect it, and so get the babies involved too. Thank you.
So getting students, and I'm thinking like from Hana High School, but maybe even Kekalike and others, any of them. So not East Maui specific.
This place here is available for housing too. It's like provide housing. Or you want to come in groups, you're going to partner with Namoku, you can take care of them, educate them, and they can help us too, yeah, both ways. And they're going to grow up. You all going to come old, and they're going to grow up and take your place, hopefully. Thank you.
So we have a mini 10,000 acre watershed overgrown with invasives, and so I always think in terms of how are you going to actually do this. And I was a member of Ahalau in Hana, and we ID'd a specific area, and we had work days, and we went there regularly and took care of it. We planted, we cleaned, and we did it religiously. And I think that probably, I mean, realistically speaking, we would have to identify an area here that were manageable for a community of our size, as well as what we hope will be us invitees who would be willing to join with us and do this work from now till forever. I think 10,000, many thousands of acres is beyond our capacity right now. Maybe not in the future, but that could be another project. But it would have to be, we'd have to sit and come up with some planning, carve out the areas that we felt were priority, recruit the people, get buy-in from our community to do work days in the same way that we have for other projects here. That's what it takes. Thank you.
So I'm hearing maybe identifying a small test location or a certain area that can be the pilot, and then expanding and growing from there once we have, the community buy-in and the work kind of getting put into it instead of the whole page up. Yep. Forest development. So we want to know, we have a queue 1, 2, 3. Yeah, thanks.
Just expanding on what Eddie is talking about. We do have lots of taro farmers who own their own business. And each taro farmer have knowledge on just not kalo, but also mauka makai and other Hawaiian cultural, because that's their life, that's our lifestyle. So looking at that, if Namoku or you folks can also partner with them as well in all these different areas. And as far as the planting of invasive Hawaiian plants, native plants, there's certain areas that you can grow and certain areas that you cannot, from Mauka to Makai, but basically creating a food web from Mauka to Makai. So lower areas can have one certain type of plant, as well as ulu trees, and another area can have something else. Up in Mauka side, of course, you already get watercress, can have more watercress patches. So you are creating jobs for the future and food for our people. Okay.
I just wanted to add on our endemic species in mammals. There is a concern on the opeapea. that is there's a small colony right next to my house, and it's declining. And so I just wanted to add that because it has a very, very good beneficial value there, mainly to all the mosquitoes. So I just want to add that.
So OPA monitoring
Yes.
in existing locations. Okay.
Yeah, in different locations.
One of my good friends is a bat scientist. We should call.
So if you're planting and you don't want to just put in effort and then not have it like those plants survive or like know if they're efficient, I was thinking of like that where are people going to be accessing and having eyes on what's going into the ground. And so I was trying to put two and two pieces together here with if we're going to be wanting to repair the ditches, make sure they're not leaking, doing monitoring above and below that places where there's rainforest deforestation, if you have a native plant corridor, so something that can go between the different mokus. So right now it's also, we have that ditch system. So if it was like a focus of, we're going to remove all these invasive trees along the ditch system so their roots don't crack the ditch. And then you can replant things there. That way there's people that are maybe up, maintaining that line anyway or doing monitoring there. So it could be a native plant corridor that also helps native species like the birds or pollinators that would rely on those plants to be able to travel between ahupua'a. And it might also be spreading seeds. Like if the trees are there and they're like dropping their seeds into the ditch, if they're going, it's also dispersing invasive species through that. So I don't know, one area that could potentially focus on.
Sorry. One or two more.
Shucks, I just wanted to add, we get other nonprofit organizations up in Hana that actually doing the seedlings. They're bringing up the koa trees, the mamaki, the what else they would bring down? Some mountain apple trees, ohia. We actually went this past weekend. We went up in the mountain and we went go plant whatever we could. I think it was like 6 or 7 koas, about 8 ohias, ava, and all that stuff. So I think we get. I mean, we get other organizations in East Maui that doing the propagating, I guess, the seedlings. If we could just support them.
So partnering with and supporting other Maui Hikina nonprofits that are doing that work. I have a question, I guess, in related to that. So we know of some of organizations that way up Mauka, right? In the Valakua, we have like East Maui Watershed. We have some of the state folks. They have the fencing up there and that 99% intact native forest that is helping to capture a lot of water. I'm interested in, I guess, your folks mana'o on those organizations, any potential to collaborate with them. And I don't know if I'm stepping into controversy here, but saying the F word, fencing, right? If we're thinking restoration of native plant species, how are we going to prevent maybe access to your pigs, other species? As a hunter myself, it's a complicated, solution, but I'm really interested in this community's on that as well when it comes to trying to have a longevity of a forest coming back up. I don't know if I just went rogue, Gina. Sorry, but
Well, I said a little bit about the fencing. I don't know how much. Fencing up Mauka. It was also to protect the native plants, Mauka. But it was also to push the pigs through low elevation. And then they put the first one in, they put the second one in, and they put the third one in. No. What we're finding out right now, that the pigs are at low elevation. They're causing havoc all over the place. I think when it comes to partnering, there's no reason why we shouldn't partner with anybody unless they don't like us. Because we're all looking at the same mission to protect the resources, to protect the job. So I think when it comes to partnering, I think we have to look openly as long as it's proper managed. And a key factor, and I always believe in that, is safety. I think safety is more important than who this guy, you know. If you came to eradicate, you came with the same mana I get. I came to eradicate. So there shouldn't be no reason why we have to be concerned of who we're dealing with. And if we don't like the guys, oh, we're going to take care of business, you know. But other than that, I don't think we need others.
It was actually kind of embarrassing a while ago. I know the East Maui, is it called the East Maui Watershed or something? And they were pretty explicit that they didn't want our community
Oh,
participating.
you never let me be
Yeah.
part of that.
They did not want
No,
us there.
troublemaker.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's why we get all upset. There were people there that did not want us there. During those rows of setting up purities on the yes, so we were concerned about our environment. We wanted to protect the watershed. We shared the same values that they said they know, but they didn't want us. We didn't want us there. Interesting. That's true. It's true. Yeah.
Still to this day.
They got things wrong.
They got us out.
They got it wrong. So they're not foreigners. We are the lineal descendants to this island. We be born here. This is our home. Why hit a nerve for telling me I cannot be here? And they did that. But you know, I overlook all that bullshit.
Maybe they need a
Long you
cultural
remember
education.
all in the place. Who belong here? This us. This our case. We the Kanaka. They got all them all foreigners to eat. So other than that, God bless me.
Anyway, the things have changed. Yeah, but that was the case, and I don't think in recent years we ever tried attempted it again because we were outside of
Sorry about that. I don't know about that, but that's not okay. Do we have any final thoughts on watershed?
Yeah, I was actually going to refer to that somewhat because when I was on the Maui County Board of Water Supply, one of the agenda items was $1 million for grants for watershed protection throughout the county, right? So East Maui Watershed for East Maui. East Maui Watershed Protection, the group you're talking about, is one of the recipients of those grants, right? And so one of the things I was going to say is in terms of process and all of these partnerships and the fact that East Maui Water Authority is a county program, DWS has this, I don't know if it's $1 million now, how much it is. But one of the questions that one of our board members asked at the time, because we were specifically talking about invasive species, was, is there an amount of money beyond this $1 million that would just take care of it, as opposed to like $1 million a year? What if we had $10 million or whatever? But in thinking about this in the context of this conversation, it isn't about one lump sum, right? It's about a sustainable, long-term partnership, and maybe something that can be a project for East Maui Water Authority is, how do we work with DWS? How do we work with what entities already exist to make sure they're responsive to the community and make sure that funding is really used as well as possible and is increased in a way that makes the most sense? But just wanted to add. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Sharina. Thank you, everybody, for these really amazing generative discussions. It's invaluable to pick up on the wisdom of the room. So our fourth and final topic category for project idea list is this idea of stewardship, water system ownership, and operations. And so the definition of this topic is to think about supporting community control of water resources and developing sustainable practices for water. And this might include the county acquisition of the water system, the county data collection and reporting, which we've touched on in a bit, but could expand on, the enforcement of stream diversion removal and restoring flows to taro patches, amongst many others. So I don't know, Shay or Junior, if you guys want to cue that up a little bit more, and then happy to take your thoughts. So, yeah.
I don't even know what. Anybody get any advice on this stewardship and water and water systems ownership? I think what you like.
So the reason we added this is we think of yourself talking to the policymakers. I know we talk about it all the time amongst ourselves, but we want to be able to bring your words when we go before the BLNR on November 14th. So what do you want to tell them? And I'll let Shay, you want to take over since you're facilitated?
Well, I think we talked a lot about county data collection in other topics, but county acquisition of the water system, I guess the question would be is what would that look like to you? What ideas do you guys have of how you would interact with the county? We have the East Maui Water Authority, the whole board. How would the community interact and work on this acquisition? And of course, when we were on the water board, we did suggest eminent domain, which was controversial at the time, but
The Water Authority and Namoku already on the ground floor, we're working together. The Maui County had put this to vote, and the people of Maui voted that there should be a stewardship. So we're not just talking about the Water Authority and Namoku. We have to include Maui, the people of Maui, to be represented in this thing to whoever will vote. So stewardship, it should be the Water Authority and partnering with Namoku and others. And the state, their kuleana is the land, yes, and Coram is the water. So I personally believe that no private corporation for profit should manage the resources. It must be put back into the hands of the people and just lay it out in front of their face. Because you and I know that they are not on our side. They are supporting the big corporation, and they always have. The public trust is the people. So I wouldn't worry about them. Put them right in their face, and this is what it is. It's the voice of the people, the public trust. Thank you.
Just a question about the water, because I never hear anything about Hawaiian Homes. Where's Hawaiian Homes' involvement in all of this water system? As far as the beneficiaries, are they being included in this as well?
Jonathan Starr stays on the Jonathan
Sure.
Sawyer, who's on the Water Commission. He spoke today too. Water
Okay.
Homeland has a priority, number one. And they're on the list. They're before anybody else.
When the charter amendment was created, we specifically reserved a seat on the board for a DHHL appointee to be on the board of the East Maui Water Authority, the Ahawaii Maui Hikina. So those interests are represented through the board. But we also recognize that they're one of the public trust uses too that come first. So that's part of our education to remind people when we don't do it because we've come and done them and you know it, but when we do go out to the broader community, we do go over what are the public trust uses, and DHHL is definitely on there. And the DHHL representative is the chair of our board, Dr. Jonathan Scheuer, too. So yeah, we talk about it being a partnership with DHHL too.
So these are quotes from the Maui Hikina document that Kumapono Associates wrote. And so these are not my ideas. This is just from the text, but it's relevant. that a konohiki or a headsman of an ahupua'a had the authority to regulate access to resources in that ahupua'a. This rested on deep empirical knowledge of place and the reciprocal responsibility to balance communal use with sustainability. That access was not a right freely given, but earned through continuous stewardship and the contribution to the well-being of the land and its health. Why is more than a resource to be manipulated or extracted. It's a cosmologically connected to the people, to law, and the source of abundance, as kin, as the giver of life, transmitter of knowledge, and the conduit of generational wealth. Management is a sacred act as much as a practical one. It was not privately owned, but communally protected. Mismanaging water not only disrupts ecological balance, but ancestral continuity. So yes, a public trust, and the fact that I do believe that the land having its own rights is in Hawaiian law, so that could be a potential loophole in a legal situation.
Okay. Well, so am I? So the project then, as far as the community taking over the water system, right? Acquisition of the water system. So if we put that on the list as a project, what does that mean exactly for Gina? Does it mean eminent domain? Does it mean obtaining the leases?
When you say eminent domain, you're saying that the ditch system would fall under control of the state. Yeah.
Or the
like going
county.
From
Or the
state or the
county.
county.
Yeah. And that, of course, is a legal proceeding. You can't just snap your fingers. And you still have to spend money.
Yeah, the stewardship and the ownership, what does it look like? Huh? From at this point, it looks pretty scary because there's no concept. It's not established yet here. There's no concept to actually what it looks like. But I just want to put in there that it must have a system where there's a cap of wire going out. There must be a cap on it, rather than depending on data. So that will be part of working towards a ownership and operation. Okay? And what the ownership really looks like, yes, it'll be a lot of legal approach, I would assume. It's kind of hard. I'm having difficulty in trying to expand on that. It sounds nice though, and it is a possibility. It is a possibility because it's there. The answer is there, and I have a model for starting this conversation. Though it is important.
Well, and maybe the project is mapping that out. What does that look like? Maybe that's the priority.
So we face so many challenges. And first of all, let me just say that when I was introduced at the beginning, in the same way that we say that the land is chief and we are its servants, I've also always approached my my place in this community as a servant to the people here. And that doesn't mean that, I'm like a kawa to my husband, but it's just that I know my place. And that was just a basic fundamental approach as in my other capacity, which was, we provided legal capacity to this community for many years. And I actually go back so far as when we represented Uncle Harry and Joyce Kainoa and those guys back in 1985, all the way up through, 2018 when the quorum issued its decision. And throughout that time, my attitude has always been, I'm here to serve. And I just want everyone here to understand that. Having said that, today, continuing the traditional and customary lifestyle is extremely challenging. The ideal that you refer to was interrupted, and not even by the corporations. Our own ali'i sort of facilitated that change. So anything that survived the overlay of colonization, we're lucky. And we're depending on those few fragments of our traditional ways. We're depending on that to continue that lifestyle. So, for example, one little amendment in our Constitution that gives priority to traditional and customary practices. On that one thing, we've been able to expand so that we have rights of access, right? All of these things we have today. But it's it's very, very challenging. So with respect to stewardship, aren't you thinking the same thing that I am, that they could make this happen if they wanted to, but they lack the political will? Talk about eminent domain or however else. The voters of Maui want this. They want our community to control our resources. They voted for it. We're getting resistance from the state. Because why? Because they've had in front of them this intransigent corporation that's now being taken over by a foreign corporation, by Canada, investment, that's had before that board of land and natural resources for the last 20, 30 years, a so-called application for a long-term lease. They never acted on it. They never did the EIS. They never followed all these things that were required. And yet, this Board of Land and Natural Resources is still deferring to them. This thing about having a contested case hearing, it's all about punting. They don't want to take the kuleana. They don't want to say no to the corporation. They know they should say no. They have the power to do it, but they won't do it. And so what I'm saying is what we want, I don't think there's any question. We want our people to control our own resources now. And I want to just encourage everybody here to show up or testify on November 14th and call them out for the cowards that they are. These waters, they should exercise all the powers that they have. Dawn Chang and her board, and I think she's been, of course, manipulated by the governor who's bowing down to the corporations. They need to exercise the powers that they have to make this happen because the voters called for it. And I think we need to remind them in a very forceful way. So I don't know what else we got to say about that. We want to control our resources, period. We've supported the Water Authority as that entity to help us build that capacity. And that's it. I don't know what else there is to say about this.
Well, you understand.
We did a lot this community, and we really support you, Water Authority, and we support the people that voted in Maui County, to manage all of this, and just lay it out to the DLNR. This is it, and see what they're going to say. They're not very much, but they know they're wrong. Olomoa.
Yeah, I have this one last thing to say. No. It's not a net. It's not a net. It's a thing about helping the Board of Water Supply figure this out. They have a real challenge here. How are we going to get water to the people who need it for real? And I don't think that's their kuleana, that's our kuleana too. Let's
put that brain power together and help them figure it out. So the one thing we can do is just say, no, we can't take it from here. No, 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 no. We can do that. But beyond that, I think we gotta work with them and try to help them figure it out, because that's who we are. We care. And my husband over here said always that our intention was not to just hog it off for ourselves. We were willing to share, but they were not. The other guys weren't really. But we still are getting so. And that's all the thought I'm sitting in everybody's mind is that let us lift ourselves off of saying just no. I think you should say no, but just lift ourselves above that. Try to help the water supply figure out how to get water to all of the people who need it. That's the bigger us.
Tell them to process the sewage treatment plant water to farm and irrigate Maipono, and they should pay for it, and then give all the good water to all the people that need good water, the residents, and use that water for irrigation. And I think this gentleman around here, over there in the corner, California, they do that too, yeah? They're using the recycling of the water. And all you gamblers that go Vegas, the county of Vegas, they let go the sewage treat. They process them, and they put them in Lake Mead. And then they suck them up again, and they recycle. Why can't we do it here? The least we touch the streams and rivers, the better it is for our environment.
Okay. Any final comments? Yeah, please.
Can we hear from Xavier? I really, really would like to. I think, Xavier is like an expert on water infrastructure and stuff, and I'd really like to hear what you have to say, Xavier.
Okay. Well, I think one comment is how would recycling work? And it probably costs more than what you're doing now. Just generally figuring out who pays is another story, but it would come at a cost. But with it, of course, what you're getting is better supply reliability, which would benefit everybody. So that trade-off, it's the kind of thing that you see a lot of in California, increasing levels of water reuse and water recycling. But there is always the question of, who's going to shoulder the bill for that? And I think that's why this is all about, ownership and stewardship, which comes down to part of it is who controls it, also who pays for it, or how does it get paid for? So that's an important question that has to be figured out.
I think my bonus paid for it.
I guess my only other comment, recycling is, it may well be part of the optimum mix, regardless of who pays. But also, I think some of the other stuff we talked about earlier, like fixing leaks, usually one way or another, fixing leaks, and that means leaky reservoirs, leaky canals. Those are all things to look at too, because they might be cheaper than some of these other ideas. For every gallon saved, patching a leak can be pretty inexpensive.
Okay.
And it's just that, we realize how precious the water is. And we need to start looking at all alternatives. How much money it costs. All these years they've been looking at us cheap water. But we have just experienced a serious drought. It's going to have it again. I heard of a big guy in explored some good fresh water in the ocean. Looking at East Maui, we have to look at other places too. And like this gentleman said, money. It's always about money. And the way we're going today in America, money is going to be hard to come by in food and all of that good stuff. But I think, that people like Maipono, large corporations and private companies that has been prospering over their resources for decades, they should start coughing and paying for figuring out to help the county of Maui deliver water. But we need guys like him, he knows, even though it's expensive, but we got to look at it.
Yeah, I don't know, Gina, if you have any wrapping comments, or we can keep moving with this. Keep moving. Okay. So now what we're going to do is a brief interlude. If you all can stick around, I've got about 10 to 15 minutes of information from the Public Finance Initiative about how we have found best practices by working with other cities and counties about how to prioritize these projects and fund them, and the kind of principles that can help us. And the reason we're asking you to stick around through that is we're happy to sort of build the tools in the toolbox as we think about tackling these projects. And also, we've just listed, right, dozens of projects. And after this presentation, we're going to write a condensed form of them and ask you to vote, right, which is a form of project prioritization, because as Gina and the East Maui Water Authority take this forward, it's really essential to know in this world of constrained resources, where do they start first? So I'm going to offer some thoughts on that, and then we'll have a bit of time to stand up and walk around where the voting will work, where people will each get 3 sticky notes, which are out on the table, and people will go and put a sticky note next to the project that's most important to you. So the team will be rewriting these projects while I go through this material. But I see we've got a question first.
It's not a question, but just to bring something up.
Please.
So, I'm not sure if Namoku had brought it up to you folks' attention, but our community at a meeting with Hawaiian Homes, with Makavalu Foundation, created kapu and kanawai for the kolau, and it's about we took all of our mo'olelo in the area, especially our Wailua Iki and other mo'olelo around Ko'olau area, and created this beautiful kapu and kanawai, which was gifted to our community. So I think that kapu and kanawai is what should also be introduced to you folks, because that is the kapu and kanawai for the ko'olau. Kapu cannot be changed, kanawai can, make adjustments to, up to our people of the community. So this was a meeting with a lot of our owners that was there and our people. So, and that is something that I'll be firm with, and I'm pretty sure that I'll work with everybody else to be firm with, that this is what we must and have to follow.
Okay.
I'll follow up with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. All right. Thanks. So our thoughts on project prioritization, I think, can be helpful to think about as a puzzle, right? What we're trying to do is take this list of projects and think about which of the projects we should address when, right? The timing issue, what's first, what comes next, and how to do so. And as we do that, we want to hold space for this question, right? When the priorities come into focus, as they have in an evening like tonight, and we're trying to piece them together to build the water system and the watershed management practices that are aligned with our values, just like with a puzzle, how do we prepare to take action for that? And we have found through our work at the Public Finance Initiative that there's 5 components of project funding and prioritization that can help with the strategy building. And those are, number 1, community engagement, which is certainly what we're doing tonight. Second is a cost assessment. The third portion of that is thinking about how to find feasible and sustainable funding. The fourth part is considering where those projects might be strategically aligned with other priorities in departments and county systems. And the fifth piece is putting that implementation into an action that also aligns with the values. So I'll dig into each of these a bit this evening, but that's what we'll suggest as some considerations for you in moving forward on this. Right. And I think it can be helpful to think into practice a bit. So if you think of all the projects we just listed, as I'm suggesting the components of the strategy building, having in mind one project and thinking about how that might apply can be helpful. So this first element on community engagement starts with identifying the most important strategic priorities. And in this, I think that the act of doing it collectively can be really helpful. I think we've all had that experience where you fill out a survey and send it into the void, and you're not exactly sure where that input lands and how it compares to what other members of your communities might say. And so surfacing these projects collectively and then doing the work to prioritize them is helpful. So that's why we're transitioning from listing all of these projects into doing some type of voting or community prioritization piece where we can rank the projects that have greatest value, because in that prioritization, you're able to move on to action. And that's what we're really laser focused on here is taking this input and then working with Gina and in service of the community, thinking about what changes from this input that we pull in. And I, just as ever, you're lucky to have in the leadership of the East Maui Water Authority leaders that are really committed to ensuring that community voices are centered and have a seat at the table. So appreciate that. But we also want to be really honest in acknowledging that we know that ranking projects is only part of the process, and it isn't where the community engagement ends. And so encouraging you as a community in continuing to work with the Water Authority and other partners about other meaningful checkpoints in this community engagement process that would be helpful for you. And I'll pause here just to take a minute in asking, as the East Maui Water Authority moves forward in developing their water strategy, are there other elements of community engagement, other practices that you're really interested in making sure we bring to the foreground as part of their action plan? Sure. Yeah. And I can offer, just as you're thinking a bit about this part, what some governments do occasionally is put forth a list of projects almost in the version of a scorecard and then report out on how they're doing. And that can help with transparency, right? Because it's here are the lists of commitments we're making. But there also can be, right, downsides in terms of having that governments might shy away from being scored in ways. So there's also, right, there's this balance between the transparency piece of it and then being bold in certain commitments where you want to give folks the time to implement projects and share. So that's just an example of a practice going forward. So happy to hold if there's other ideas or to move on. Yeah. I'll keep moving. Oh, please.
Well, I don't understand what you're asking.
Sure.
Like, it's like as far as like having you have a suite of projects and it's under rubric. So you have like these projects running and it's like a way to assess the effectiveness of the things that are going to be able to. What's the question? Like,
yeah, I would zoom way out. This is probably on me. I'm saying in building this strategy of which projects to prioritize when and where and how, community engagement is the central first pillar of that. And so as a broad open question, are there elements of community engagement that you would like to see the East Maui Water Authority carry forward? Yeah, Gina, thanks.
I throw it back at you.
Please. Yeah, sure.
What do other communities do? I mean, we don't know what we don't see. I mean, I don't think we could dream it up, but maybe you can let us. I mean, we sent out surveys. We did it at the last time. I don't know if people like email surveys. I like the scorecard idea. What are other small groups that we come to the community? Do people like these kind of meetings? I don't know, Zoom meetings?
Yep. All of the above. I mean, you can send out updates. I think you have this, right, where we're sending out updates to this. So that, yeah, the question can be the community meetings, what medium is helpful, what frequency is helpful. But this commitment, which we'll talk about at the end today, is continuing in, I think, in that vein of how to hold our governments accountable and keep it transparent, right? So you want to share sufficient information at a time and a frequency and a digestibility that feels like it's not overwhelming, but it is in service of the mission.
Let me ask that question of this group, because we've had conversations. How often do you want us to come out and hold meetings like this and engage with you folks? We've heard things like stakeholder fatigue, where there's so many issues that you just don't want us to come monthly, I assume. But what would be a good, we have our board come up twice a year, but I think these are really valuable meetings where you talk to us. I mean, how often you want to see us?
Yeah.
Quarterly.
Quarterly, or every 3 months. Oh, I love that. Okay, great. And then that also, I think, puts the pressure on us to respond back to where we are and what's our plan, and then we can share with the council too and the administration.
So during the year, you go get different phases, different climate, different water pressure.
Yeah.
Quarterly would be nice.
Great. That's helpful.
So then that way, every time of the year is different water flow and everything. So that would be nice.
Can we have you at those meetings also report back to us on what's going on in the environment too?
Oh, well, yeah, whenever we do a bulk, yeah, sure.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful to us to hear.
Great. Okay. That's helpful. Yeah, we'll keep working on that. Pleasure. So that second piece of developing the strategy is around the cost assessment. So each project that is pursued by the East Maui Water Authority needs to be defined in its specific project scope, and then to identify and monetize all of the direct and indirect costs. So to break that down a bit, the direct costs, if we're doing a ditch lining or building a reservoir, are going to be the materials that you need to construct those projects and to do so. But there might also be indirect costs, which have come up throughout talking about today. We talked a little bit about the need for safety. There's potential harms or environmental impacts of building certain projects, and thinking through what are those potential indirect harms or second order components is really essential to name up front in doing this sort of cost assessment of which of these projects should the water authority pursue. Understanding all of the costs, both direct and indirect, are part of that. And there's a couple other ways that governments tend to break this down. So looking at what are the one-time costs, you have this big upfront investment, but then also, as we've talked about a lot tonight, there's all of the maintenance costs or multi-year costs that are running to sustain the project over its life cycle. And the third element there is the nature of the expenses. So that we break down similar in ways it correlates to the one-time or multi-year cut prices. Are these operational expenses? Does this what it takes to operate, or is it an infrastructure expense? And the reason that we think about those expenses are that the types of public finance strategies, the resources that are available to pay for those projects, may differ depending on what type of expense it is. The third piece, and I really do love thinking through this component, is the strategic alignment. So we've had the luxury this evening of learning over the course of tonight a bunch of projects that are important to the community here. And the question at the strategic alignment component of building a strategy from this project list is, what other strategies exist in the world that may align or be different to the projects that are at hand here? So what do I mean by that? It's that at a county level, there might be goals, or at a state level, there might be goals that the state and county are pursuing. And it can be helpful to read these project lists that we've developed tonight in mind of those goals. And Gina's work and the work of the Water Authority is to keep the community priorities in mind and centered amongst a bunch of other strategy documents and expectations from partners in the ecosystems that may include different departments or different bureaus at the state level or different community groups, right? So as a community, it can be helpful to link arms with your water authority and think through where is their alignment. So an example might be at the state level, if addressing climate risks is something that Hawaii writ large is attempting to do. If we read through these lists of projects that were generated tonight in mind of that and say which projects are strategically aligned with that overall goal of addressing climate risk, that can help fuel some momentum for making progress. Or if there's headwinds coming from different authorities, that's important information too. And this incremental piece of it is thinking that an individual project may help chip away at that larger or population scale strategy, which you can then pick up on that momentum, right? Ride the wave in order to help accomplish a project for the water system or the watershed authority that builds on momentum that's already in place. And so I'll pause here too before going on and just sort of ask again from the wisdom in the room, if we wanted to quickly list if there are other strategic plans or efforts of others. I think these are deep-seated and there are many, but does anything immediately kind of spring to mind in this notion of where is there potential strategic alignment of the projects that we listed tonight that might be helpful to build on? Which is, big work for you, Gina, but worth asking if anybody has, as we introduce this component of the plan, if something jumps to mind right away.
Army Corps of Engineers.
Sure. Yeah.
I was just the Army Corps of Engineers is in a lot of big projects that I don't know where their funding comes from, but if we could divert Army funds towards infrastructure for water, that'd be great. So I don't know where their funding sources come from, but I know that they've done lots of other big projects in Hawaii that were really extensive. And I don't know if the state paid for it. It was the Army Corps.
Thanks.
Yeah. Was the main one. And the private foundations for cultural and education components. A lot of private foundations fund intergenerational education and INA projects. So, but for the large scale ones, infrastructure, Army Corps came to mind.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Others? This could be a 4-day workshop itself. So I know I'm asking a lot, but would love the ideas. I can see Gina beaming back there. Yeah. Okay. All right. You can catch us on our way back. How are we doing back there with we're good? Okay. We got a couple more to go here. Oh, I'll say just on the strategic alignment piece before I move on, a huge consideration for a department or an authority like Maui Water Authority is that many governments have fiscal requirements that must be met, right? So there's a mandatory minimum for how many reserve funds must be in the bank, or there's a cap on spending or something. And that overall condition can impose this resource constraint on how much can be invested in this system. All right, which leads us a bit to the feasible and sustainable funding piece of this, where we think about having assessed those costs and the alignment, how do you pay for them? And there's lots of different ways, right, projects can be funded. This option for pay as you go is paying in cash, equivalent to if you go to the store and you just use cash in your pocket rather than using a credit card. But thinking also about what are the other resources that are available, what type of revenues might the system collect, where could different investments come from? And on the investments piece, we have learned a lot about the history of privatization and private investments that have been counter to the aims of this community, but are opening up, and Gina said, right, is open to thinking about funding from all different sources where there is mission alignment and values alignment. Can be helpful to take this real integrated view of potential sources of capital, so long as it's not extractive. And so here, this jurisdiction, I don't think, is thinking about this, but I'm sure Xavier and others know of. In the case of water systems, often the way you pay for something is by raising the rates of the water use, which then might be a disadvantage to the very users that you're aiming to serve, of the most disadvantaged users of the system. And so that's this principle amongst thinking about feasible and sustainable funding is ensuring that it's not extractive in its pieces. Okay, and the last component of this strategy is implementation and action. I also love this component. So here we've thought about what do we fund in listing the projects and prioritizing them. Please.
Could you explain what you mean by extractive?
Sure. Yeah. In this case, the extractive is thinking carefully about, right, what are we trying to achieve here? And who is paying for that system? 1 second. Gotta get some water. The ensuring that the way that you're paying for a project isn't counter to the aims of the projects itself. So you might have a project that is intending to advance equity and resilience. But if you need to raise the rates to pay for that, and the users that benefit from that project are the ones that bear the costs.
You don't want dark money.
Sure. Yeah. Well, this can be all within the system of the ratepayers. It's just thinking about who bears the burden. There's a lot of different ways to think about extraction. Yeah. But mission aligned, right? It's another piece of it.
The staff was just talking. You don't want to take money that you don't feel is problem. It's righteous money. You don't want to take money that's tainted. You don't want to take money that's coming from, a company that's engaging in unfair practices or exploiting people. You don't want to take that kind of money. So that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
And I think you were also saying you don't want to raise rates and then have somebody who's not even paying rates benefit from project unfair.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. You both fleshed that out very well for me. I appreciate it. This last piece on implementation is the how. So here it's thinking about, once you've done that careful work of thinking about which projects there should be, how much are they going to cost? Is it aligned? How are you going to pay for it? Then when you get to actually implementing the project, continuing this commitment to value alignment, which is to say, when you're procuring the materials that you need, is that aligned with your values? When you're hiring folks and using different labor practices, is that workforce development aligned with your practices? And it's an opportunity to continue to live the values through the implementation decisions. And a big part of this, which ties back to the community engagement coming out here once a quarter, is thinking about how are you tracking and reporting that work. So it was a bit of a flyby, but those are the kind of 5 components that we have found working with different governments can be helpful in developing a strategy to move forward from this ideation and vision stage into the practice of assessing costs of projects and funding them, and then moving to implementation. So happy to take any general questions, but also excited to move on to this part of project prioritization. And I'll maybe ask folks that did the hard work of consolidating the many ideas here to talk us through a little bit what you see. What we're suggesting is that everybody takes sticky notes, 3 sticky notes. Here, I've got a slide on this. All right. So we've generated all of these ideas. Now we're going to prioritize them. And here's what we're suggesting for the voting. So each participant takes 3 sticky notes. And we're going to ask you to take a little bit of break, get up and move around, and read the consolidation of these project ideas on the wall here. And then to vote with your sticky note on the projects to prioritize. And if you really like one of the projects, you can put all 3 of your votes towards that. If you think the most important thing that East Maui Water Authority should prioritize and go after is, for example, the county acquisition of the water system, stick all 3 of your sticky notes there. If you want to spread out your 3 votes across 3 different projects, you're welcome to do that, whatever works for you. And what we'll end up with, as you can imagine, is underneath, right, these different ideas, we'll be able to see visually what is jumping out as a priority for the community. So I am going to quickly read these, but we'll take 10 minutes here to take a little bit of a break and to vote before we circle back and debrief this. Anything you consolidators want to add before I go down the line and read these? Sure, it's difficult to consolidate, absolutely. So this is their best attempt. Great, 16 topics. Great. And then if these 16 topics don't land and you think, wait, what happened to my best favorite idea? It's not written up here. We'll talk about that in debrief. So this is just our best attempt at a first go. All right. So on this sheet, we have create our own EMI, the equipment, the tools, the monitoring, radio and drones, the equipment loan program, an invasive plant control, youth and school-centered maintenance programs, the county acquisition of water systems, establishing a model for what county ownership would look like. On these papers, we have native plant restoration in partnership with nonprofits and nurseries. Nope. Yes. For watershed restoration, identifying pilot zones to grow native cultural and medicinal plants, the low flow channels to restore streams, upgrading the physical infrastructure, bringing science and aquatic experts for research and training programs, and the Baseyard personnel. And lastly, infrastructure mapping for general knowledge, maintenance and repairs, reservoir depth and covers, rain and stream monitoring, and educational and capacity building for long-term and local efforts. So if you, are the instructions clear? Everybody takes 3 votes and pin them up, and then we'll debrief. Okay, thanks. Okay. If we get started, Mary, if you don't mind. So we had 30 to 40 votes, and of that, I think we have 4 clear projects in this kind of categorization of a 16 project consolidation that really stand out. So I'll name those now, and then we want to do some reflection as a group about did where we land reflect the community priorities? Are there other projects that we didn't list or voices that are not in this room that should be as we carry this forward? Do these results resonate? So I'll talk a bit about it, but the kind of questions that we want to reflect on before wrapping up tonight are these 3, right? Is this resonating? Are there other ideas that we should be thinking about? Are there voices in this room that we have not considered? So one of the clear projects that stands out in terms of votes, where this says, 8, 9 votes, is creating our own EMI, the equipment, the tools, the monitoring of the ecosystem, the radio, and the drones. Another project item with 5 votes here is establishing a model for what a county ownership would look like. Over here, we have quite a few other things to pull out. So this is this native plant restoration in partnership with nonprofits and nurseries for watershed restoration, also with 5 votes. Here with 9 votes, we have upgrading the physical infrastructure. And those are the 4 real standout projects to carry forward. So does that resonate as where we maybe reflect things? Are there others that we want to pull out or dissect a bit more, build up?
Between monitoring was really important.
But nobody did anything. It's kind of looped in with the 3 of EMI.
Okay. Okay, that's a very good point. Thank you very much. All right. So we'll make sure to underline all God and marker that monitoring piece of it. Great. Thank you. Great. Other lessons, ideas, considerations for this?
I'm just wondering if the branding of that one is exactly what you want, considering your last, the last comment. What it seems to, I think the emphasis here is on maintaining healthy ecosystems and knowing what's going on. I don't think that's how you would describe EMI's current mission.
All right. All right. You did this on the fly. We'll workshop it. But yeah, great. Thank you very much for that point. That is the type of notes, right? Moving forward, you can kind of get locked in, right? Where we start colloquially referring to this as our own EMI. Like we want to think about, the language implications of that for sure. Other thoughts? Stacey.
I feel like the ones that had the most votes are all sort of enveloped under each other. Change the wording a little bit of like creating our own EMI is also establishing a model of what county ownership could look like. And the native plan restoration and upgrade is a goal for kind of pieces of that plan.
Yeah. Great. That's a great point. Which are the types of thing, again, we can wordsmith and kind of think about how do you combine, how do you pull out. We really appreciate that you did this quickly. I want to also take a minute to bounce down and make sure we don't breeze over. If there are other ideas that are not reflected in these priorities, or if there's any voices that are not in the room that are important to consult before moving forward. Okay. If other insights come to you as you're reflecting on this evening, I know that East Maui Water Authority will work on a summary of what we take from tonight. We'll fold this into our activities tomorrow. There'll be report backs and things. So Gina, we'll talk about some commitments, but I think the takeaway message is to be in touch. And to continue the conversation. So just really thank you for your participation and move on now to a bit of closing, which I think I'll turn over soon to Gina. Let me just check my notes here. I just want to take a moment to reflect a bit on what we accomplished tonight, and thank you so much for your time to go from dozens of pages of notes of really good project ideas to stepping back and thinking a little bit about how to fund them, how to prioritize them, where there might be alignment. And then to do this hard work of prioritization is a clear set of guiding information for the Water Authority to move forward with. So happy to turn this over now to Gina to talk a little bit about what she'll do with this with the staff. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This was a really helpful exercise. And it's so great. I thought we just have a couple stickers across all of them, but no, you were pretty clear about what you want. I read the create our own EMI as the Baseyard part of it, and the personnel that we need to take care of the system itself. It sounds like you're more than ready to take it on, which is good to hear. So as we move forward, it's my job to take all this information, turn it into programs, and then go out and work on implementing it. So when it comes to budget time, I may ask for some help there. We've already done the demand. We want to submit a budget. But come council time, I may reach out to you guys. But it's amazing what difference it makes to have some people come out. So I'm going to do that. And my commitment to you is to also come back and report to you on what's going on, and also continue to get your knowledge and guidance as we continue to work. And then you have our board members are in your community, so always feel like you can reach out to them too. And I'll translate your information and messages to the Board of Ag and Natural Resources. But again, as Mahealani said, please on November 14th, let your thoughts be known directly to the board. So thank you all for coming out tonight.
And then before we wrap, Leslie, I wanted to give you a moment to give a bit of a plug for the community grants that are due this week, and then I'll remind you about what events we have tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you for today, everyone. I think as part of understanding what is the good work that's already happening right now and what the needs are, we are, of course, offering our Smart Water Authority grants. The deadline is the 5th of November. So I am available to help support anybody who's considering applying for this grant. I would really like to support anyone who's doing the good work to feel like they can prepare and submit an application so that we can run the money to support our. So please take a packet. If you don't have one already, share with somebody that you think should have it. And I look forward to seeing the proposals.
Great. Thank you. And then the last piece here is these flyers have the information for tomorrow. So if you want to spread the word, tomorrow at 1 p.m. at the Cameron Center, there will be another session that's somewhat similar to this in a condensed form. It's also online. So if folks want to participate virtually, that is an option tomorrow afternoon from 1 to 3. And then we'll run the same program tomorrow evening at the Haiku Community Center from 6 till 9 p.m. So please spread the word. And with that, we'll just say again, mahalo, thank you so much. It was really such an honor to be here tonight. And we're really grateful for your time and good ideas and excited for what comes from this. Thanks for coming.